Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Welcome to Lonelywood, Dawnbringers Rime of the Frostmaiden Season 5, Episode 8, happening every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain. As you can tell, we are down our good friend M, who had something else to do. I don't know what could possibly be better than Dawnbringers on Thursday night, but apparently they found something. They should be back next week. Actually, they'll be back here tomorrow night on MTD for Friday Night Takeover because they're running Goblin Punks, which is a Grant Howitt game. Along with several other of our friends here. Dwight will be producing that one, so you want to be sure to tune in for that tomorrow night. But yeah, we're here. Going to play some D&D in just a few minutes, continuing to explore the frozen lands of Icewind Dale as the Dawnbringers are trying to get their bearings and figure out what the heck is going on. A couple of quick announcements. First, take a look down at the bottom. You'll see several icons, graphics, logos for Jasper's Game Day, first and foremost, who we are pleased to be partnered with. Jasper's just has tons of incredible fundraisers happening to support their organization, which is dedicated to raising awareness, education, and ultimately the prevention of suicide through tabletop gaming. In fact, this weekend, Fenway, the founder of Jasper's Game Day, is having a fundraising game in honor of her birthday. I believe she's running the game, if I'm not mistaken. Todd Stashwick, Amy Lynn DeZura, and several other folks, whose names I can't recall at the moment, are going to be a part of that. Actually, Paizo just made an announcement that they're partnering up with Jasper's as well. In fact, I can say this, I've hinted at it before, but I wanted to wait until it was official. So for Jasper's Game Week this year, at the first week of May, we're starting off with a couple days of D&D Beyond hosting games. And then Sunday through Thursday will be those 5 days, 4 games a day right here on Mini Terrain Domain, with a lot of the people that you've seen in previous years, as well as new friends. And then that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Paizo is taking over the rest of the gaming week. So where in previous 2 years, Jasper's has been 5 days, and then last year actually D&D Beyond sort of tacked onto the beginning, and we had 7 days. This year, 10 days of Jasper's Game Week with D&D Beyond, Mini Terrain Domain, and Paizo, each individually hosting, all going into just one big fundraiser goal for the May and semi-annual event, all going for this amazing cause. And we're hopeful that we can far surpass last year and raise well over 50,000 is what we're shooting for this year. And just so you know, that money does go to benefit suicide crisis lines. It goes to training people in schools and institutions on how to deal with recognizing signs and deal with the aftermath of suicides. And also goes to, in that same vein, to support crisis centers around the country. So it's just absolutely incredible. So be sure to check them out. You can type !Jasper at any time. A link will pop up and you can donate directly to Jasper's Game Day. Of course, you can always type !Coffee, and there you will find a link to Initiative Coffee Company's Help Action, where you can get your very own Metade roast coffee. That is a delicious Peruvian and Brazilian medium roast coffee that we have hand selected to represent the brand in association with Initiative Coffee Company. For every 12-ounce bag of that Metade roast coffee you get for yourself, $3 of your purchase price goes to benefit Jasper's Game Day. So you might as well pick up 2 or 3 while you're at it. Another person and company that we want to point out is our sponsor, Talon and Claw. Talon and Claw makes incredible wooden dice accessories, dice vaults. They're launching new wooden dice trays, DM screens, all that kind of good stuff. You can head over to their Etsy store. There's a link in the chat right now. And when you go to checkout, use code MTDClaw, and you'll get 10% off your purchase and help support the channel while you're at it. Of course, we want to shout out D&D Beyond, as always, for giving us insider access. The insider access to D&D Beyond has been just... I can't emphasize enough how valuable it has been to me. I love and always still have the books right on hand while I'm DMing for whatever I'm working on, but not having to have 5 or 6 books in front of me to reference rules and stuff. Even with a resident Dan sitting up there, I still have to reference the rules occasionally. And D&D Beyond has been instrumental in that. So we're super appreciative to the folks at D&D Beyond and our friend community manager Lauren Obo Crazy over there, who has facilitated that. I want to do a quick shout out to somebody else who just because they are incredibly awesome, and many of us know Devin. The map, what you're looking at here as we get into the game in a little bit. This map that is visible here, minus the you are here arrow, is courtesy of Devin Rue. Devin sent that over to us. She's drawn the full, her version of the full Icewind Dale map. I believe it's in conjunction with Beetle and Grimm's. But you can get this map for yourself over on Devin Rue's. V, can you grab that link and toss it into the chat if you don't mind? The Twitter or the link to her storefront.
I will.
That would be fantastic because she didn't ask for any of this, but she just messaged us on Twitter and sent the map over to V, and here we are tonight with this incredible map that we now get to use during our adventures here. As Dan said amongst us, you can still get lost, but at least you'll have a beautiful map to look at while you're wandering around in the frigid cold. So yeah, I did want to say a huge thank you to Devin Rue for letting us use this gorgeous map. Well, let's see. I left the camera open on that one so you can see my placeholder aspect of Fig. No big deal. I think. Oh no, two things I gotta cover real quick, because if you look up at the top there, it's not really under anybody's head, so I guess I'll have to put it over here so V can point up above her head at the 144 domain dice that are up there. That is our way of letting you, the viewers, have a little bit of say on what happens in these games. For a $5 tip, 500-bit cheer, subscription, resub, raids, all that good stuff, we'll earn them domain dice that they can use to reroll. They can force me to re-roll all the way up to a Patron's Blessing, which is turning a hit into a super crit, double max damage critical hit. And we have seen many of those used. Once again, Jeremy flaunting his ham or die. As our friend Tamiko said, Jeremy's got ham on his goodies. You can get those shirts by typing !merch along with many other cool shirts and other things that we have available to support and show your support of the brand. Yeah, I think that's about it for all that stuff. Of course, I do want to talk about the one thing that we always take a moment to talk about before we get into our escapism from the real world for a few moments. And that is that you matter. We're going to talk about mental health for a moment. And I'm especially attuned to this today as in the spirit of always being open and helping to destigmatize conversations around mental health. I had 2 of the worst anxiety attacks I've ever had yesterday during a routine medical procedure. And And while I did not enjoy them at all, and it took me most of the day to recover from the trauma of that situation, those anxiety attacks. If it weren't for the fact that I've been in therapy for over a year, been talking with a therapist about anxiety and depression, I don't know that I would have been equipped to even deal with it to the degree with which I did. I more likely than not would have had to walk out of my medical appointment and rescheduled and lost money and everything else. But all of that's to say that there's nothing wrong with feeling the way you feel. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to talk about it. That's why I talk openly about it. It sucks. There's no way around it. It sucks sometimes. Within the span of 10 minutes, I went from being in the midst of a terrible panic attack to scrolling on my phone during the same procedure. So you never know, but there's help out there. That's what we're getting at. The fact that there is help available for you if you're in this situation and you don't have anybody to talk to. All you got to do is reach out. And to help facilitate that, all you have to do is come here to Mini Terrain Domain any time of day or night, whether we're streaming or not. You can type in the word !help, as Jeremy has done in the chat. That message will pop up periodically throughout the chat, and it will show up at the bottom of the screen as well while we're playing our game. Copy down those numbers if you need them. Call the phone number, use the text services, or go to the URL where you'll find links to places all around the world. No matter what country you're in, there are services where you can find help. And we encourage you to do that, please, because you do matter, whether or not you believe it. So that is our message to you, please. Don't be afraid to ask for help. With that, we're going to do a quick recap, and we are going to get into our game. So, the Dawnbringers, most recently, seeming to be a bit smaller. They're less a couple of, an augmentee, if you will, and one of their former members has moved on. So the much smaller Dawnbringer group began heading down the tundra towards the river, following the directions of the were-polar bear. The were-polar bear.
I like you, polar bear.
I guess that's the thing now. They're polar bears. The were-polar bear. Yeah, Mintertalk. Had given them directions on how they could get to the Lonelywood in the 10 towns. On their way there, they were attacked by these mysterious zombie-like frozen corpses that emitted a bright light. Several ice mephits, these little imp-like icy creatures that exploded upon their death. And they were visited by a strange figure with the head of an owl, the fur of a goat, even the cloven hooves like a goat, who wore a blanket of snow like a cape and had massive horns curling down from their head, much like this figure that you see here, in fact. And that figure flew away into the night, but not before letting them know telepathically that they did not belong here, and that they are now marked, despite the fact that Cantriel has also marked this creature with her magical oath bow Sempre Cavatina, by swearing it her sworn enemy.
That's on brand. Yep, she'd swear.
Yep. But they were able to continue along their path, find the river, travel along the river, and eventually they came to, a lonely wood, if you will, a forested area that soon began to open up into a road. They started to see structures and people. It's getting on towards evening, though it is always night here in Icewind Dale, apparently. They saw dogs barking, or heard dogs barking, saw a few dogs still hooked up to sleds as a couple people moved around. The signs of a bustling lumber town starting to wind down for the day. And then one of the last things they heard before we ended last session was, amongst the murmuring of the crowds that began to watch this motley group of figures enter their town, was, where in the hell are their winter clothes? As none of them are really dressed for winter, though a couple are more prepared for that. And we're actually going to switch over to a different map, though I would love to stay on this lovely map from Devon Rue. We're going to switch over here to Lonelywood proper. This is the town. I know it's difficult to see this, but this is more just for reference. The town sits on the border of a lake. You can already see several docks jutting out into the partially frozen lake. You can see several boats are either tied up or being tied up. A few people are coming from those docks. You can't help but be slightly reminded of Saltmarsh, though this town has a different air about it. Perhaps it's the snow blanketing what would otherwise be muddy shores. And while you can smell the telltale odor of a fishing village, you can also smell the wood smoke from several burning hearths, the smoke that rises in and blends with the falling snow from several buildings nearby. You can smell food cooking, probably over some of those same hearths. And in not too distant from you, probably Talmud and Thorgarn in particular, their nose perk up to the smell of spirits, ale, mulled wine. As you are all entering this town now, and townsfolk are just looking at you like you are the out-of-towners that you are. Dawnbringers, what would you like to do?
So Drown will immediately snap his head over to someone who quips about where their winter clothes, and will just start trudging right over to them and say, "You."
You walk up to this half-elven man. Looks to be a bit younger, dressed comfortably in winter clothes, and he's got a scarf, a thick woolen red scarf wrapped around, so you can only see from his nose up through here, and he's got a woolen cap on, but he's just looking up at you. Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
We require your clothes. Where can we get some?
He kind of looks down. My clothes, sir.
He's not looking to buy your clothes or take your clothes. We want to find where we can purchase clothes that are appropriate to this weather.
Oh.
Kind of furrows his brow like I just said that, and nods once.
It's all in the delivery, Drown.
In a different time and in a different place, somebody's picturing Arnold Schwarzenegger. Give me your clothes. I know I was.
Give them to me. Nothing clean, right?
Well, you're gonna want to see any one of the shops in town, but they're all closed for the day. I'm sorry if this sounds obvious, but you look very cold.
I am fine. My companions are not.
Well, your blue skin tells me otherwise. I mean, not blue, but blue. Sorry.
That's normal.
Look, you can only be getting colder standing here. Please, come with me. We'll go to, we'll head over here to the Lucky Liar.
That sounds wonderful. By the way, your name?
You're too fast. I was trying to stall while I was looking up the name. My name is, Ravos.
Hello, Ravos.
Ravos Vask.
Very nice to meet you.
You as well. Please come in. We'll get you in front of the fire. We'll get you some stew, and we'll get you some drink, and get you warmed up, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk. He's moving pretty hurriedly, but doesn't seem to be like he's not looking around like he's making sure nobody notices. He's just trying to get you to this building, and he's leading you towards this wooden structure that out on the thoroughfare, the snow virtually glows with the yellow warm light spilling out of this building. Light, the yellow light.
Too late.
So
It's like playing with teenagers.
when he shows us to the door, I give him a gold piece.
Sorry, what's this for, sir?
Getting us to somewhere warm quickly. Is it a problem that I insult you?
I mean, no, I'll gladly take your gold piece, but I just saw some strangers in need. I was just trying to help. You know what? I'll use this to buy you your first ale. Come on. And he walks up onto the porch and starts kicking off his boots right away, and leads you inside to this inn. Or not? Sorry, not an inn. It's a tavern. You can see that there's a pretty good crowd of folk inside here. They all look to be working folk. Many of them have their bundled clothing sort of slung over the big jackets slung over the back of their chairs or hung up on hooks nearby. You catch a couple of halflings that have kicked off their boots and have their big old feet perched up on a wooden table in front of the fire, smoking on some long meerschaum pipes, pipe weed curling up around them, filling the air. This place smells like a mixture, partially what you would expect just from so many bodies crammed in here. But it's not overpowering because it's the spirits, the beer, the mulled wine. You smell meats, you smell cooking pies and fresh baked bread, and you just see all of this stuff being spread around. I just realized I forgot to give you guys a domain die for earlier.
Woot.
There it goes. You see all of this, and then Ravos brings you kind of inside, and he goes, right, come over here. And he heads over to a table where there's a couple of people that are sitting there, and he goes, move. Trust me. You're gonna need to make room. And he just sort of gestures particularly over his shoulder at Drown. We need extra space. I don't know where they came from. This is how they're dressed. I know, right?
It came from a mountain. There was a cabin there.
Well, there's certainly a story there. And he gives a whistle, and he calls out, Danae! Around! Let's make us stews, ale, and mulled wine all around the table. I've got this one. And you see behind the bar, you see a human woman, very dark black, straight hair. She's got most of it pulled back. Some of it falls to the sides. And she's, without missing a beat, just turns towards the kitchen and gets the order started. As Ravos and many of the others around, though there are a lot of eyes on you, for the most part, the din of noise in this place only grew slightly quieter, and people are still talking amongst themselves, though you might catch an occasional eye staring at you, or stealing a glimpse as you're brought over here. And Ravos sits down, slaps the table, and says, "Right, what are you waiting for? Sit down. You've got to be able to feel the warmth now." And you're not that far from the main fire that's roaring in this place. What would you like to do?
Try to make sure that Yesha gets the closest spot to the fire. I will amend the order to include bread and pies and tea. Basically everything that they've got. I, as Ted, know what it's like to be out in that kind of bitter cold, unprepared. So eating a lot of things that are warm is definitely necessary. So I'm going to assume Thorgarn would rather over-order and whatnot than have to be like, all right, let's order more now, that this is gone. He's going to go crazy.
Brown just sort of silently holds his hand out toward Cantriel to take his coat back whenever she wants to shuck it.
Oh, right. Don't have to here, hold on. And it's like you can hear the fabric flapping and everything because, it's basically she might as well be dressing up in Dad's coat, and she'll hand it back over to him. Thank you very much. By the way, do they need to use a sale because of the size or just because you couldn't find enough fabric?
It was not a sale.
And what was it?
Full price.
It was several other sea coats cut and stitched together.
Oh, so patchwork.
Mm-hmm. And he kind of holds up his bracers where the canvas is wrapped around it in sort of makeshift bracers. These were sales.
I think that's the most you've said ever. And she'll sit down.
That doesn't seem likely.
It doesn't take long before your table ends up looking much like the cover of Heroes Feast here, as so much delicious food is brought forth. Maybe not a full-on suckling pig, but there's definitely a wide assortment of foods being brought forth. And Ravos shows no hesitation as Danae is bringing out trays and platters. Ravos just starts handing the stuff out to all of you. He doesn't even bat an eye as he places food and drink in front of Fig. Just setting it there, just as he does with everybody else. Everybody go ahead and make me a perception check.
27.
Of course. I should say everybody but Cantriel, because you just see it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I smell it and I hear it too.
What'd you get, Drown?
14.
And Thorgarn and Talmud?
13.
I got a 10.
Okay. I'll say Talmud's probably the only one who doesn't quite pick up on this as he's tucking in. But Cantriel in particular, you notice, it's not just Danae bringing food forth. Other tables, people are just shifting uneaten or half loaves of bread, tankards of ale, whatever. For every platter Danae brings, 3 times as much food and drink shows up on the table. As people are just making sure you guys have plenty enough. You've also noticed that as Ravos begins, sort of as he's passing it all out, he's like, well, it's been a long time since we've seen anybody coming in here from out of town, and well, you'll pardon the expression, but you're quite strangers, if you know what I mean. I don't mean any offense by that, but I've never seen quite an assortment of people, and to come down out of the mountain, barely wearing a stitch for what would be required in Icewind Dale, in the dead of night. Well, it's always night here. Here, try some of this stew. Put this bread with it. And then, bring some more of the mulled wine. Better make it two extras for the dwarves.
Talmud's gonna lean over towards Thorgarn and say, "Is he a follower of Eldath?"
I don't see any icons or necklaces there. Don't know.
And he just basically, as they're talking, you just hear him, whoever will listen, and he's just hitting you with questions. Where did you come from? How did you find your way here? People don't usually come of their own choice to Icewind Dale. That was not intentional. Where did you come from? Where are you going?
Where did you come from? Where did you go?
It's like this guy's gonna Cotton Eye Joe us.
And
I love that.
And then you see Cantriel is giving him the timeout. And I'm sorry.
It's totally fine. I mean, it's actually quite refreshing to have such a warm and welcoming reception. It's just you're asking a lot of questions, and we'd love to answer them for you, but there's a pause button, right?
A pause button? I don't know what that is, but...
she looks to Fig and just kind of like winks.
Oh, right. I am so sorry, please. I'll just eat my stew and drink my wine and let you answer some questions. And you'll notice that as his questions increased, and all of this is going on, as people are passing food, people are sort of turning their chairs or turning their bodies part way and kind of just leaning in a little bit because they're very interested in the strangers that have come to town. So now there's this sort of this quiet as Ravos has finally stopped talking.
So as this is happening, am I able to get I already blanked on what the bard maid's name was.
Danae.
Would I be able to get her attention?
Yeah, you'd be able to kind of get her attention on one of her multiple trips to the table.
So in kind of I'd like to order, and then get her in close, be like, look, don't let Ravos pay. Don't let any of my companions pay. I've got whatever the charge is for tonight. Let me know, and I will cover it.
Well, I appreciate your willingness to pay for yourself and your friends. She just kind of gestures around. I'm afraid there's nothing for you to pay for, dwarf. Pardon me. I am Danae. What is your name?
I'm Thorgarn, and I insist. Like this food is not free. Your service is not free.
That is all paid for by the patrons here.
Ugh.
It's the least I could do in exchange for tales from strangers come to the Lucky Lyre. I'll hear no talk of coin today, but come back tomorrow, and I'll take your coin happily.
Grumble.
Meanwhile, Drown leans over to Cantriel, and Ed Talmud is like, why is everyone here giving us their leftover food?
I'm not sure, but it's still hot. And Talmud's going to reach across the table and grab something in front of Thorgarn. Oh, it's fine. It's not eaten.
He just shrugs and starts eating.
It's a nicety. They're being considerate and welcoming and wanting to make sure that we're comfortable.
You ever experienced that in a town before?
Yes, when Griffith's not in tow.
That makes sense.
Ravos is kind of stuffing some bread. He's taking a spoonful of stew and he's got some bread in his mouth and he's like, I don't understand why you wouldn't have a nice greeting. You seem like lovely people. I'm sorry. You seem like incredible people. I can't imagine who wouldn't be excited to see you all. What are just nice to see strangers.
Well, and it's lovely to meet thoughtful and welcoming and considerate strangers. It's just in the past we used to have a traveling companion who was a bit more enthusiastically abrasive.
His heart was in the right place, even if his words weren't.
No, sometimes the heart I wondered about too. But anyways, look, actually, this is the first time we actually get to introduce ourselves. So I'm Cantriel Cavatina. Very nice to meet you. And
as you say your name, Cantriel, all of a sudden the entire tavern, you just hear all these men and women voices rise up and they go, Cantriel! And glasses are raised and clink together.
Oh, so you've heard of me?
We have now!
I love this place.
Well,
the bard is happy right now.
If you're exceptionally lucky, perhaps we'll get a song out of her before the eve is over.
Oh, somebody
No
goes,
promises.
We'll make sure you don't leave without at least a song. Only if she's willing to, Mick. Anybody else introducing themselves?
I will totally, stand up. I am Thorgarn, Spirit Caller.
Thorgarn! You didn't think every town was going to be Salt Marsh, did you?
Yes. Conditioned, yes.
And not wanting to be outdone by his cousin, Talmud actually jumps up on his stool and is going to say, and I am Talmud of Cled Gadaun. I know there's been a lot said already about the things that I may or may not have done. I assure you they're all true.
Talmud! And then they kind of go, Talmud!
Yeah, Drown will just kind of look around for a moment after they're all done and then just say, I am called Drown. That's it.
There's a moment of hesitation. Did he say drown? Drown? Oh, that's... Just say it. Just say it. Drown! It's a little discordant, but, I mean, you're on the edge of a fishing village on a lake. They're a little hesitant to say drown, but they give you a rousing cheer. Fig just sort of watching all of this, just kind of looks expectantly and just kind of sits up a little bit and says, and I am called Figure 1 Prometheus. Dead silence. But you can call me Fig? Fig! And the place is just ablaze with cheer and laughter already. All of these individuals in the Lucky Liar, many of them are red-nosed and rosy-cheeked. Many cups in. And people are just, if you don't come forth with any particular stories or saying anything, you do see Ravos or others nearby that are like, just, so where did you come from? How did you end up getting here? I'm sorry, you can eat, but please, we just want to know how you got here.
So while all of this is going on, Drown is going to lean into just the table. And I guess if the half-elf fellow is there sitting with us too, he might hear it, but he'll ask the Dawnbringers, how much do we want to tell them? They're going to ask how we got here, where we came from. Are we going to tell them the truth?
Magic?
The truth then. Very well.
I mean, I am a bard. It's kind of my thing.
I don't see what it would harm to tell them the truth. We're not hiding anything that I know of. He kind of looks around at the table.
Drown nods once, satisfied at that answer, and just settles back.
Right, so it's story time, everyone. Well, song time. And Cantriel will just sort of like, is it like a stool or what kind of a chair is it?
It's a wooden chair. It's got that. It actually has some pretty good craftsmanship to it. Pretty much everything is made of sturdy, thick lumber around here, and these are our nice backed full back chairs.
Okay, so she's loving it, first of all, because of the shouting and everyone like names and everything like that. So she's a very happy little bard. She will stand up and push her chair back and then stand up on top of it, and she'll start playing her drum and just getting a rhythmic beat going. And since you've all been so wonderful and welcomed us here to Lonelywood, and I thought it'd be nice to sort of give you a quick little synopsis of who we are and what we've been through. So sit back and listen, and hopefully you'll enjoy. And she hasn't been on stage in a very long time. So like she's like big grin across her face. She's extremely relaxed. Her eyes are bright and dancing. Like you haven't seen this version of Cantriel probably since like the beginning at Oakhurst, right?
Yeah, Oakhurst.
Yeah. So she's all smiles and everything, and then she starts to sing, I'll sing you a tale of a journey long, a search to right our wrongs, across the seas into the dark tower standing strong, with truths revealed from mysteries. We must work as one to bring forth light into the night before our chance is gone. The Gothias tree we thought to be the cause of our demise, but through his defeat we know that we have changed the course of tides. As close as blood and family, we will strive once more to find out where we ought to be and see the dawning shores. And she'll go through a few more verses, hearkening back to the other parts that she's done. It's, probably a good 3 or 4 verses long. And when she's done, she'll do like a little flourish on the drum and do like a quick little bow and then hop off and jump to the ground again with a big smile on her face.
You were barely into that song when from nowhere somebody produced a fiddle, somebody produced a flute, somebody even produced a mouth harp, and there was just very subtle. They were staying subtle and following your lead, but by the end they had picked up and were just hitting all the beats just right with everywhere in your song. In between the verses, if you had some kind of a chorus, by the end of this, people are singing some of the key words within, and when it's all done, it's thunderous applause. You see a few people, I would say not a few people, you see quite a few people kind of wiping their eyes, and it's absolutely incredible. Thank you. Woo! Incredible story. Your amazing voice. Thank you. And
I really like it here.
would be a shame if something would happen. I'm just
Don't
kidding.
you dare! Moment.
I need you to make a perception check. No, I'm just kidding.
He's gonna salt march this place.
Right. I was just like, please don't make this another salt march.
It's a giant not turtle.
Right.
Not turtle.
It's a night turtle. It's called a nocturtle. I get a disappointed look from V on that one. Anyway, no, it's you've caught nothing but genuine happiness, and everything you've seen in this tavern tonight has been genuine. Just, this is a close-knit community of people that work together and drink together and tell stories together, and they have happily welcomed you into their midst. Does anybody have anything they want to question anybody, Ravos or Danae or anybody else about, or would you just sort of settle into the meal for a little bit and maybe engage in small talk with people around you?
Thorgarn's gonna do a little bit of uncharacteristic, schmoozing. Spend a little bit of time talking to everyone, and he's got a reason for it. So it's not totally crazy, but tell a little bit about who he is to everyone, to anyone that wants to listen. But he'll be asking individuals, "Oh, well, what do you do here?" And what he's trying to do is try to see, if there's actually anyone that's a metal worker, whether they're an armor or a smith or just I'm in tools and that's about it. But he's trying to see if there's actually a person who has a legitimate forge here in town.
All right. So as you are talking around to people, you learn that there's two primary trades, well, basically three primary things that go on here in Lonelywood. The first and foremost is it is a logging town. And it's not, they don't log the Lonelywood in terms of trying to make money. It's about survival. The Lonelywood is a carefully curated forest that they tend to the growth and replacement, because it's such a precious commodity in Icewind Dale, wood is, and that they do what they can to protect their trade, but also keep the other 10 towns, the other 9 towns of 10 towns supplied. They also are a fishing town. The knucklehead trout is a number one fish in this region, which also has supplied a burgeoning art trade in Scrimshaw. That there are a lot of Scrimshanders here that take the bulbous skull of the knucklehead trout, and they do fine detailed filigreed work within the skulls, often inlaying them with colored dyes, sealing them in wax. And I imagine you would maybe at this mention, you might notice that there's some display pieces of this kind of work. And it's not just knucklehead trout. There's other types of bone that are also designed like this, but maybe some of it has been carefully laid in wrapped around tankards and things like that. It's a unique trade that they just utilize that aspect of the fishing trade. You do learn Thorgarn, that there is a there is a forge in town, that it's just an average forge. They don't run it as a true blacksmithing business. It's part of the logging business to help with keeping their sleds and their tools and equipment forged and ready and replaced and repaired. Yeah.
Is the person who owns or runs that particular forge here in the tavern that evening?
I'm gonna say they're not here tonight.
Sure.
You get a sense that from the size of Lonelywood, that while there's a lot of people packed in here, this maybe represents less than well, you don't know how big this town is, but it represents only a percentage. Obviously, there's no children in here, and
I don't let the any of the knowledge that I'm looking for I don't let it discourage me. I try to stay as genuine as possible with greeting everyone and taking the time to hear what they do and what have you, and the fact that there's a element of artwork in smithing. Those people who get into the scrimshaw, I try to get them to talk about why they do what they do, what aspect of it do they like, what is their favorite piece, all of that stuff.
Go ahead and just make me a general charisma check.
That's an 11.
Yeah, people are eager to talk to you, and you get to know people pretty well. They see that you seem to be taking a genuine interest, and they're very eager to share, especially if you let on in any way that you are an artisan of any kind. I think
I would share, and my holy symbol's out, so you're gonna see the anvil, off on the necklace. So
yeah, so they're very amenable to your questions, and some of them are quick to show you their wares. Or samples, or one of them, I imagine an older gentleman points up to a very large skeleton of a knucklehead trout that's mounted up above the bar with a very large bulbous forehead, and there's just this incredible scene that looks to depict mountains in the distance, boats coming in with the docks in view in the front. It seems to be a view of the lake from the shoreline, and it's so detailed. It seems to depict a time before this place was fully embraced in a blizzard. You actually see a setting sun depicted in this, and he just kind of points up at that and says, back in well, by Dale reckoning, I don't rightly remember the exact year that was, but it's been about 20, 30 years since I carved that one. Hauled that sucker out myself, too. Put up a fight.
Bet that's a tale.
Yeah, that's it. I just told it to you.
It's a very beautiful piece.
Well, if you take any interest in this type of work, head on over to the Happy Scrimshander. It got all of everything you could need if you're gonna take up the trade.
I'll be sure to stop in upon the morrow.
And tell Erasmas that Renee sent ya.
Will do.
Anybody else talking to anybody or looking for any particular information, or are you all just relaxing?
Cantriel will be flitting from person to person, just
way too much.
That's par for the course. Par for the dwarf. And what did you say you were doing, Cantriel?
Cantrieling. I'm going around, I'm speaking to people and being utterly pleasant.
Glad handing the high rollers.
Lots of people are happy to shake your hand. You meet a couple of the folks that were playing instruments along with you, that are happy to show off their own instruments, and I imagine that wherever you meet up with them, there's maybe a few moments where an impromptu song or story breaks out, fishing tales and other tales like that. What about Drown? What are you doing?
Brown would actually be interested in talking to people about the everlasting rime, just like how it's affecting them. If anyone knows anything more about it, if they have any, this is a pretty small village, so he doesn't really expect that there will be, but if there are any holy people here or spellcasters of any kind, any magic workers, wonder workers of any kind, or if they know of anywhere else nearby in Icewind Dale who might. Is there a wizard in a tower somewhere that you know
of? You're met with obviously plenty of people eager to talk with you. Go ahead and just make me a general charisma check. See what people are willing to tell you.
Well, I'm going to burn a domain die, but that got me a nat 20 for a total of 25.
Okay. So as you start talking around, for the most part, you get the sense that the people here in the Lonelywood keep to themselves. They keep busy with their fishing trade. They keep busy with the logging, all of that. Keeps them. There's a handful of people that make occasional runs. They run the logging supplies to some of the other towns. Tourmaline is a town about 3 miles down the road that's much larger than the Lonelywood, and that tends to be as far as most people go. Because they can then bring their wares and their supplies there, and from Tourmaline it can spread out. You do get at least as far as people suggesting that in you might find what you're looking for in some of the bigger towns, like perhaps East Haven being one of the larger towns. Bryn Shander, another one where you're likely to find folks of the persuasion you're looking for. As far as the everlasting rime, whenever you mention it, you see a little bit of a hush comes over people.
The first time he notices that, he'll probably back off on talking about it because he's not interested in, poking their taboos if they're going to clam up.
And seeing you back off, Ravos would just kind of say, "Look, it's going to be a lot of the fisher folk, in particular, and the old timers. They're really superstitious. There's already been enough craziness going on around here that people
Brown
are."
Says, how long has it been since the sun rose here?
It's been 2 years.
And I suspect there is far more than superstition at work, and I wouldn't put it past anything that they think, believe, or know.
Listen, there's talk in other towns that he gets really quiet. He kind of leans in real close to you, Drown. They call her the Frostmaiden. She has other names. And some of the other towns, it said that people, they leave offerings, and I've heard tales of people sacrificing to her to stave off the worst of the winter. They call her Ariel. And he says this really quietly.
Oral the Frostmaiden, you say? No. No, so he nods once and he says, this Frostmaiden, is this powerful wizard, or
There's some that say
sounds like they treat her as a goddess.
that she is a god. A great and terrible god that has made Icewind Dale her home. Every night they say she takes to the skies and she flies around all of Icewind Dale, leaving those lights, the beautiful aurora in her wake. But also ensuring that the rhyme continues. There's some that think that she can be defeated, but that's not going to be anybody from the Lonelywood, I'll tell you that. Hell, we can't even handle a moose. But look, if you want to know more about Ariel, or the Frostmaiden, or whatever she is, you're going to want to speak to the townspeaker. Chances are she's already aware of your arrival here in the Lonelywood, and she's going to want to talk to you.
Very well. She's not here this evening?
I have not seen her yet. She's not much of one for coming in here very often.
Then, if you would be so kind to direct us, I would appreciate it, and I would like to speak to her.
Right. Yes, that's absolutely something we can do. During this exchange, Talmud, you're getting well into your cups, drinking pretty much everything that's put before you. I imagine.
How can you tell?
I would like you.
Yes.
I would like you to make me a charisma check, and I would like you to do so at advantage.
Oh, good. I might hit double digits. Yeah, he's regaling them with all kinds of the stories of things that they have done. But in true Talmud fashion, he ends up looking really, really good in most of these stories.
Oh, of course.
Okay. You said persuasion?
Just straight charisma.
What kind of... Just straight charisma, sorry.
If you want to add some, if you want to add an element of persuasion or performance, by all means do so.
Liquid persuasion.
Sure. You've got plenty of that.
So yeah, yeah, no joke. So that totals it out to a 15 then.
Okay, perfect. I imagine there's parts where you're doing your best to paint yourself at the center of some of these stories, and every once in a while, Fig is just kind of piping in. Actually, Talmud, that's not what happened. It was Cantriel that did that.
But I was there.
In contrast, on the other side of the bar, anytime he goes off on just a ridiculous bullshit yarn about whatever he did, Drown just sort of nudges whoever's next to him and says, "That happened."
So you end up, as is typical to happen in a tavern or bar where you're thoroughly enjoying your company and your drink, you find yourself around two women and two men that are there with you that are all equally drunk. They're a dwarven woman, and the other three are human. And they're telling their own tales. It's basically become around the table, and you start to pick up on a couple little. You just pick up a couple of stories that seem to be unresolved. Like these are things that might they're either tall tales or things that might be happening. The one woman, she leans in really close to you. Well, this is the human woman. I don't get out on the lake very often. but I spend most of my time in the woods, but I've been hearing from...
I don't blame you.
Mostly, right? Who needs all that water underneath you?
No.
Brown will move the candle away so her breath doesn't ignite.
Cantriel will pull a bucket nearby.
I've heard from... I've got a cousin in Bremen. He said that the fisher folk over there, they're seeing a monster in the lake. A monster in Merdolden. We haven't seen
a really big fish.
We're on the same lake. It's right out there. See a monster, do you? But if you go to Bremen, you better watch out. Stay away from... Trust me. Don't go near the water. Nothing good comes from there.
You won't see me going near the
Drown nudges whoever's next to him, points at the drunk woman, and said, "That is also true."
One of the men next to you, his eyes are, you can't tell if they're open or closed. They're so squinty. His cheeks are just rosy, mostly because he's smiling constantly. He's got these massive mutton chops that come down, but his chin is bare, and he's got the broad shoulders and the forearms of somebody that's used to lifting heavy logs and swinging an axe. He's one of the loggers, and he says, "I'll tell you what, you can go ahead and keep your monsters in the lake. That's just a myth. I've seen the white moose in the Lonelywood. It's real. They've seen it too. We've seen it. Thing seems to always know where we're gonna be, and he shows up there and it runs us off just as we're getting ready to make our cuts. We've taken the having to send more logging parties out. Gotta send them out 2-3 at a time just to distract the damn moose. It's cut down on
Draw
production."
lots to see who's moose bait.
Moose bait, that's a good one. And I know just who to give that name to.
Drown points at their friend who brought them in and said, "He mentioned that they couldn't handle a moose. I thought it was some sort of figure of speech. That didn't make any sense. You're being plagued by a moose?"
It's a big, I don't know if it's what do they call that? Alopecia, albino. It's albino. Moose, so it's all white except for its eyes. They're like two flaming red orbs of, well, unnatural intelligence.
Well, red eyes and albinoism usually go hand in hand. Or maybe hoof and hoof in this case.
Demon moose.
Demon moose. Wonderful.
A human? Eats a moose. I don't know about human, but anyway.
Who said human?
I don't know.
Too
That's
drunk
what...
to hear? I have never experienced that.
But these are the two stories you get in particular from the folk as you're drunkenly talking with them. And around this time, Drown, you've sort of in between these tales, you've been having your conversation with Ravos, and just as he's saying, "Yeah, well, let's see about getting you out of here." You see a mop of blonde hair, thick blonde hair, just come darting through the crowd, barely 2.5 feet, 3 feet above the floor, and what looks like a halfling child comes running forward, and kind of makes his way through right up to Ravos and just starts tugging on his sleeve. What's this now? Oh, hey, Scoop, what you doing? Right, Ma. Ma got word of, and this little halfling boy is just kind of trying to point at all of you, but he looks like he's been told it's impolite to point. So he's kind of going like, Ma heard about all them. She'd like to invite them over. She's made fresh cookies. And you know Ma doesn't want to wait too long. Right. Well, Drown. This here is Scoop. Scoop is one of the children of our speaker. And seems, as I said, she's aware of your presence here. We should head over to her house. There's not a proper inn here in town, but Speaker Nimsy has been making her attic available to people that need it. So we should probably head over there. And by now, you guys have been here for a couple hours. The conversation has started to lull. Plates have been cleared. You've already had your fair share of desserts and even some coffees have been brought out, and hot chocolate. And eventually, you're at this point where Ravos is suggesting, look, it's not that far. The speaker's house is just up the street. The warmth of the food in your belly should keep you warm on the walk over there. And he is already getting up and pulling on his coat and scarf and gesturing you all to follow. So, if you are going to go ahead and follow, then that is a great place for us to take our break. We'll take a break and we will pick up at Speaker Nimsy Huddle's place in about 10 minutes. And we'll see what's going on there. So thank you everybody who's tuned in so far tonight. It's been a pleasure seeing everybody in the chat. Thank you to the people that have subbed and everything for Domain Dice. As always, we appreciate you. So we are going to go to break. We'll see you in about 10 minutes. And we're back. And as you head out of the Lucky Liar into the snow-covered streets, I need you all to roll for initiative. I'm just kidding. Don't kill me. We're going to actually we're going to do a wipe. And you are, as we come back, we find the Dawnbringers are now in, the Dawnbringers are now standing in a cozy attic of a house located just a little ways down. You didn't have to walk very far down the street to the speaker's house. It was down a little ways and then down a side street. One of the larger houses that you've seen here. This attic space is quite large, separated into little sections. You can see there's an array of cots and beds, a couple tables, some overstuffed easy chairs. There is a hearth up here in this attic. It's very cozy and warm. And from the time you entered this house, you could smell the most delicious fresh baked cookies just filling your nostrils. And you're led into the house. You're led up into this attic by Ravos and the halfling child Scoop. And you're told to make yourselves comfortable. And so at this point, you've all had an opportunity to kind of settle into the hodgepodge of chairs that are available. And
is there furniture that looks like it will support Drown?
There's a couple of, I would say a couple of the, there's a big bench at the table that looks like it can support you. A couple of the sturdier wooden chairs, and there's a couple of big overstuffed like easy chairs that look like they could easily accommodate you.
If the benches look stout enough, he would probably very gingerly settle himself down on a bench, probably on the side, not in the middle.
Yeah, like over one of the legs.
Yep. He knows how the small folk do.
Yeah, and this, I would say, despite how sturdy it is, there's still just that moment of, but it doesn't give much at all, and supports your bulk no problem. As you're all getting settled, a variety of mop-haired halfling children come rushing in to and fro, placing again a hodgepodge of mugs and tankards down on the table with either a ceramic clink or an empty metal clink. Ravos heads over to the hearth and pulls off a tea kettle, and a variety of teas and hot chocolates are poured into the mugs. And then you hear, just from over by the door where you came up the steps, you just hear a slight and everybody turns, or at least the children and Ravos turn and look, and from the stairs comes a halfling woman who looks to be she's looking like she's a little bit older, enough to have a little bit of gray hairs, and she looks very comfortable in her woolen sweater and skirts, and she has this apron. Everything is in shades of green, and she's carrying just this very wide tray laden with, you can smell the fresh smell of cookies coming off of this tray as she comes in. And she sets the tray down on the table, and she walks around to the other side, and there's a single chair. There's a few other chairs around, but there's one chair that looks like it was made specifically for her, brings her a little closer up to the edge of the table, and she climbs up into this chair, and she looks around at all of you, and she says, as she looks around, she just says, well, I don't know what you're waiting for. Dig in. As she points to the cookies. These cookies look like sugar cookies that are shaped like little halflings.
So Drown will like gingerly pick one up between his massive thumb and forefinger, look at it, and just like spend a moment studying it, kind of like he's never seen one before, and kind of sniff it, raise his eyebrows, and then start eating. And then just pop the whole thing into his mouth.
She just smiles a nice big smile at you.
Very good.
I'd be worried if you said otherwise. We've got tea and hot chocolate as well. Please, we'll have time in a minute to talk. Help yourself. And she just takes this this ceramic mug that has very delicately had scrimshaw work done on it, and you can see that it's the shape of one of her halfling cookies, and in a neat script and laid in with some kind of colored wax or dye, it just says Nimsy Huddles Home. And this, she just takes this in her hands and, please, no need to hold back. She looks at you, Drown. Take 2, 3, 4 more. I'll just make more.
If you are certain.
But of course.
He pops like 3 of them into his mouth. These are delicious. I have never tasted anything like this.
Again, I'd be worried if you had. It's my own special recipe.
You said you had chocolate for drinking? There's a drink made from chocolate?
Yes. It's a bit of milk and chocolate and these delightful little, and she holds this up, marshmallows. And she squishes this little puff ball of white, and she reaches it over into a little canister and grabs a little wooden spoon, and she brings over one of the mugs, and she looks at you, and you just see her, she just, from high enough up that they make a little splash, just bloop, 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 bloop. She looks at you, Talmud, sees the look on your face. One more, I think. Takes another big scoop of marshmallows. Bloop, 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 bloop. And then just slides the mug across the table towards you. And then just settles back to watch you.
Is there alcohol in this?
Well, not in its current form, you know, with the children running around, but if you wanted there to be,
If you don't.
there can be.
He kind of like puts his elbow over and kind of looks away and then kind of slides the mug kind of under his arm closer to her.
You don't even see where she produced it from, but she pulls out a small flask and just pours a little something of some slightly amber-colored liquid in there. And as you sort of pull back, she just, with a hand no longer holding the, in fact, as you look back at her, she's just like this. And she just goes and winks at you.
He like stirs it with his finger and then like licks his finger off and then...
Oh, it's rich and creamy hot chocolate.
And then just starts knocking it back. Got a little like froth of the like melted marshmallows in his mustache.
What about Thorgarn?
Oh, Thorgarn will totally go for the hot chocolate, and it's probably giving a reaction of like, this is something that shouldn't be allowed. He's had a variety of different things, but given her secret recipes and all of that jazz, I imagine this is something special. He doesn't need to have the alcohol added. The special recipe is more than enough.
Cantriel.
She's playing with the children. She's like on the floor. She's telling them stories. She is like, one's probably on her lap, and she's like, playing with, like, she's just in heaven right now.
All right. And I imagine Fig is just like looking curiously at the cookie and a cup of hot chocolate, not being able to truly imbibe these or partake in these tasty treats, just observing them and observing. I imagine just paying attention to how all of you are reacting to these things. He's seeing the Dawnbringers as you're experiencing something for the first time. And he kind of looks over for a few minutes, just watching Cantriel play with the children. Which Cantriel, you learn that these four halfling children are called Poppy, Scoop, Trout, and Fiddle. Poppy and Fiddle are both little girls. Scoop and Trout are both little boys.
She's like braiding Fiddle's hair and singing a song to Poppy. Like she's she's happy right now.
And so Fig is just sort of watching this and just looking around at everybody. And I imagine Fig just sort of making this sound, though it's not a true sigh. It just sounds like he's replicating a sigh of contentment. Just, this really is nice. I don't think I'm used to this. And after a little bit, you're not really sure whether it's been a few minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. You've just been enjoying this pleasantness. You just sort of hear that.
Brown has eaten well over half the tray of cookies.
And nary a complaint.
Thorgarn is trying to be polite and take only what would be his share. He's trying to not get into all of the ridiculous dwarven stereotypes that he absolutely has done in the past.
Well, it is very important to me that you all be comfortable and cozy and warm. I'm told that you came into town by way of the mountains from the direction of Calvin's Cairn, along the river, dressed just as you are now.
Aye.
And as town speaker for the Lonelywood, and as a good citizen, and I believe a good person, I felt it was my responsibility to offer you my hospitality. I am Town Speaker Nimsy Huddle, Speaker for Lonelywood of the 10 Towns. I would like to know, how is it that such a unique collection of individuals would arrive in the middle of the tundra, dressed as you are. There is non-ordinary means of travel, I suspect. Yes?
Drown nods,
Came in a
reaches into
flying
his
ship.
bag. Yeah, reaches into his bag and takes out the helmet, which he hasn't been wearing because they've just been chilling in town. In fact, he probably hasn't even put his coat on. He's just like got it tucked over his backpack, so he's wearing his studded leather armor, which is like sleeveless. So he's just, bare armed, hanging out in the cold, no problem. He takes out the helm, holds it up, and says, "This is magical. It allows us to instantly transport from one place to another. We tried to return to our ship, but it had been taken by a dragon and dropped atop your mountain, this cairn you spoke of. We found ourselves there unexpectedly and had to find our way off the mountain before," and he kind of looks over at everybody but Talmud, "before the cold took its due."
You haven't seen an influx of new people recently, have you?
We've not seen any new folk here in the Lonelywood.
Any giant floating orbs with extra eyes?
That is a strange thing that I
Sure.
would most assuredly notice. No, I'm afraid I've not seen anything like that.
Well, at some point in time, we need to try and find our wayward sailors, if they can be found.
You'll have to excuse me. That's quite a fantastical tale that you traveled by way of that helmet via teleportation, looking for a ship that was stolen by a dragon. Is that right?
Very, very large one, yes.
We have only put that last part together after speaking to a friendly bear person that we met near a cabin in the mountain. Oya Minartok was her name.
Oya Minartok, yes. It is very fortuitous that you...
She warned us that the white dragon was dangerous and we should avoid her.
By every word of warning that Oya Minartok gave you, you should avoid Arviatris. A dragon in any conditions is a dangerous thing indeed. And for a moment, you just see from some candles that are flickering on the table, you see a little bit of light flickering in her eyes as she seems to stare off in the distance for a moment, and she's sort of, but Arviatris is a different dragon altogether.
Also,
well, there's not a lot known about her, and she hasn't been seen, to the best of my recollection, until you just mentioned her, for a very long time, though she makes her home somewhere here in the tundra. There were tales many years ago that a halfling adventurer, part of an adventuring group, they called themselves, I think it was the Vaeros. His name was, it was Sylvain. Sylvain Aetherlock was his name. And there was a story that many years ago he came to Icewind Dale, found Arviatris' lair, and stole her treasure hoard. And survived. Now, I don't know about you, but stealing a hoard from a dragon and surviving is a bit of a tall tale to me, but
I've heard of stranger ones.
Were we sailing around with Arviatris's horde?
Apparently.
was that Drown or Dan that just said that?
That's Dan. Drown is like
Drown.
Drown is not that animated. Drown's brow like furrows, and that's about. He's thinking, huh? You know.
Cantriel's singing crap.
So, for just a momentary flashback, because this goes back about a little over a season ago, when a certain group of adventurers sailing on a certain vessel broke the magical wards on a locked room on this ship and found over, well, I don't know, it was close to 2 million in cash and prizes, many of which are on their person now.
Some of which is supposed to be, being transformed soon, hopefully.
Well, hey, it was a nice windfall that you guys found. Nobody knows exactly where it came from, so and probably not in any way related to this story this old halfling's telling you.
Thorgarn is
question mark.
Thorgarn is somewhat insightful, but like he's not even, trying to make those kind of connections. He's just thinking like, all right, Dawnbringers, we are, trouble finders, or trouble finds us. We're here on this tundra. We're probably going to encounter this dragon at some point in time. This sucks.
Dragons seem to be woven into the thread of the Dawnbringers.
It's funny. Drown is not very perceptive. He's very distracted. He just doesn't pick up on things that are around him very well. But when he does notice something, he's great at putting pieces together. He's got a decent investigation. So when you actually point shit out to him, he can draw conclusions and trace that stuff.
Well, Cantriel also knows that name.
Yeah.
The name sounded familiar.
She's fully aware of that history. She's like, oh crap! Hey, hi!
Drown doesn't like blurt it out, but his brow like crinkles and his eyebrows sort of pinch together. And you could see that something is clicked, and he's not super happy about it, but he's not like blurting it out to the room.
That is going to be one of my favorite moments, though. Dan, the player, blurting something out of character like that, making a sudden realization. At any rate, Nimsy continues. So she tells you this bit, and then she just kind of moves on and says, well, so it seems that you were fated, as it were, to come this way, but it is such an unfortunate time and place that you find yourself. You've been here, I'm told, at least for more than a day. Here in Icewind Dale, not Lonelywood, of course, but long enough for you to notice that the sun doesn't rise. And it's been over 2 years since the last time we saw the sun.
Almost the same, actually. At least it feels that way.
But hey, it's not snowing.
We have been in many supernaturally dark places. It is becoming a trend.
Well, there are variations in the story. If you travel around Icewind Dale, or you travel around to the other towns of 10 towns, you're sure to learn different aspects of the tale, but at the heart of it, if I'm being honest with you, it seems a little over 2 years ago, the ice goddess, the Frostmaiden herself, made Icewind Dale her home. Oriel is her name. And though it sounds like something I might tell the wee ones to scare them into behaving, the fact that Oriel flies the night sky, weaving her dark magics across the land and casting her rime upon the tundra, it is a fact. On a clear night, you might be able to catch a glimpse of her when the aurora is strongest.
I think we might have caught a glimpse of her.
Does anyone know what she looks like or how one might identify her?
Here in Lonelywood, unless they keep very quiet to themselves, there's not many that truly believe, or rather truly worship, the Frostmaiden. In other towns, there are people that have taken to worshiping her, building shrines and making offerings. I've heard dark tales of some people making sacrifices to her to appease her, that perhaps them or their town will be spared. And amongst these tales, occasionally there are tales of some that describe what looks like a great horned owl wearing a blanket of snow.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
Drown's brow furrows again.
I see the mark of familiarity upon your face.
Aye.
Tell me you've not encountered Ariel. You've been here a day.
We have not encountered Oriel.
Talmud takes some like small feathers that are still kind of cut or like caught in a notch in the blade of his of Ghost Cleaver and just kind of like drops them over the table to let them kind of flutter down in between them.
Yeah, we may have made an impression.
As the feathers flutter to the table, you see at one end of the table 4 little mop heads, 8 sets of little chubby fingers just peering over the table, wide-eyed, staring at this, and all sets of eyes flicking to Nimsy. Well, I don't know what it is truly that has brought you here. The reason, that is. But it seems...
Like we told you that.
Well, the subtleties and nuances of conversation seem to be lost a bit on you, my friend Drown. But, while I don't know the particulars of why you're here, it clearly is the affairs of gods and dragons, and that's no small matter. The truth is that there's still things that have been happening here in the Lonelywood and other towns that over the last couple of years have taken on a bit more of the supernatural aspects. Perhaps tendrils of this god Ariel, or whatever else may be at work here, perhaps in the broader world, if it's brought you here. We have our own things that we're dealing with, but I don't want to ask anything of you right now, and I won't. Except for this. I offer you my attic here to stay the night, and for as many nights as you will need it. In the morning, we can show you 2 shops. I've heard that you wish to buy cold weather gear. If you have the coin and you plan to travel, there are sleds and dog teams that are available. We do have somebody here on the edge of town that raises axe beaks, that perhaps if you prefer that as a form of travel. But those are things that you can talk about in the morning. I want you to be welcome here. Consider myself your friend and the town of Lonelywood as your home away from home for the time being. There is no rush, and I will not take coin in exchange for my cookies, my hot chocolate, or my warm beds. You are my guests.
That is much appreciated. We have basically been running from one thing to another, it seems like, for quite some time. I don't know about the rest of my companions here, but a few days to have some respite is actually something that I would like to actually get done if at all possible. I kind of just glance over at Talmud. Um, but if all of you wish to continue on quickly and try to find those on the ship or wherever else we need to go, I'll do with what the group seeks.
Do not think we are in any particular hurry yet. Tonight, when we sleep, we can try to make contact with our crew. I can see to that. We may have time to do whatever it is you need to do, Thorgarn. And he'll turn to the town mistress and say, "You have shown us kindness where others have only shown us scorn. You say you don't wish to ask us for anything, but if I can speak for the Dawnbringers, if there is anything your town needs, we will help."
You're here.
She looks at you, Dawn. She looks at you, Drown.
Close.
She looks at you, Drown, and she smiles with that a look of appreciation. And Cantriel, you catch a glimpse of something else. Just a hint of sadness. Nothing dark, nothing foreboding. Just almost like a you sense there's something more she wants to talk to you about. It's nothing too pressing, but she's true to her word. She wants you to be rested. And she climbs down from her chair and she says, "In the morning, if the children haven't already awoken you, you may find yourself being awoken by the smell of sizzling bacon and fresh bread. Breakfast will be ready downstairs in the kitchen. For now, come along, children.
Oh.
Poppy, Scoop, Trout, Fiddle, come. Let's leave the Dawnbringers for a much-needed rest. Ravos, you too. Don't think I see you sitting there in the corner. Don't see you sitting there in the corner trying to listen in on more stories." And she
Cantriel's like hugging the kids before they go. She's like, "Quick, come here."
They're all eagerly rushing up to hug you, and I imagine just from being in here for a while and everything, they've gotten comfortable with all of you, and even Drown, you feel probably coming up to your kneecaps, a couple of the children just hugging your leg, and they insist on hugging all of you before they're ushered out, and Speaker Nimsy Huddle and her children, you hear them descending the stairs.
Thorgarn loves it. Someone finally shorter than him.
And you are now left alone, the five of you, here in Nimsy Huddle's attic. What would you like to do?
So, I've kind of only been very vague about it. I don't know if Talmud, with all of our conversations of late, have kind of picked up on it. And I imagine like all of our stuff is just kind of piled off to the side. And I walk over and I just kind of pick up Gerithan and I bring her over to where everybody is sitting. This has been in the clan for a while. It's linked to our story in ways that none of us have really got to see or know about when we started all of this. But I mean, it's even named after Vantage. This is more special than anyone thought before we set out from our clan. But I want to do more. I know that every time, Talmud, that you draw a weapon in battle, your hand momentarily goes to Gerithan, but knowing the foes that we typically face, you continue and you grab Ghost Cleaver. But you wish to wield this. But it is, and I mean no insult to the clan's weapon, but it is merely a weapon. It does not possess more. And though I've occasionally enhanced it for you with temporary magic, I want to make it magic all the time. And I've been in my daily prayers to Moradin. I've been getting a piece of the puzzle with every day. Deep within the vampire's tower, I've been collecting information, collecting things. But long before that, even when we were on the ship and the treasure hoard was there were some things that I picked up. Maybe I was inspired then, I didn't know it, or maybe it was just fortuitous. It's going to take some time, but I think I can make this happen. And given that it has unknown ties to that which we do, given that there is whispers of eventually needing to go find the Chardalon, I wish to ask those of you, my friends, my family really, that wish to be a part of this, that wish to take part in however you would this ceremony, ritual, whatever it is. I would like to make this happen because I care about all of us, and cousin, I care about you, and this is something that I think would make you happy.
Yeah, Talmud kind of uncharacteristically doesn't have much to say in reply. He kind of just stares down at the table where the mug of empty hot chocolate is now sitting in front of him. And he simply replies after a long moment, "Thank you, Thorgarn. I appreciate the fact that you're, that you're here."
Drown
To
has
the
a
rest
little,
of you,
like,
that's
a flash. Oh, sorry.
he kind of turns to the rest of you with this kind of awkward pause between the dwarves. So that's kind of what I would like to do after we get proper clothing for the next couple of days. I've already found that there's a forge here in town. I'm gonna hopefully just rent it out, and once I've done like the basic small forging, those who wish to kind of assist in whatever way, I'll let you know, and I can get started then.
Drown has this little flash of confusion when Thorgarn refers to them as family, but it passes quickly. And he nods and says, "If there is any assistance I can provide, I will."
Of course I'd help. Why wouldn't I?
It's appreciated. Thank you.
Obviously, if there's anything that I can do, I'll gladly.
Well, something that I've thought long and hard about is the connection that we share, not only with clan, but with, and he casually looks over his right shoulder to where the spirit usually is. The spirits, I think that I'm going to call to them as well. And that might be interesting And though you don't necessarily see the ancestors that kind of take over you when you get into your frenzy, they're there. They interact. But they don't have the ability to interact with you as the spirits that I tend to call do. And you can see that there's some trepidation in Thorgar's voice as he's like trying to say this, but I want to see if one of them would be interested. He like reaches out to the shaft of Gerithan, of living here, so that you would be able to interact again. It's a thought. I don't know. I've only got pieces, hopes, dreams, visions.
Well, I certainly can't speak for them. Quite the opposite, actually.
Right. It's going to take something out of you as part of the ritual is going to have to get you to call them out. And
you need me to get
basically
pissed
just
off.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure we can think of something.
Well, I know that it's not difficult, but it's going to be challenging to maintain. That's the issue.
Somebody's got to hurt me, or I have to hurt them. It's the only way it works.
I
will hurt you if it is required.
How generous!
A line forms here, Drown says.
The thing that's great about that moment is Drown's dryness could almost be interpreted as, yeah, that sounds like fun.
I leave that for your grace to decide.
So Thorgarn starts going over plans of what he wants to do. He pulls out a variety of things. There's a cup that was taken earlier that's totally emblazoned with symbology of Ashardalon. It's like, I'm going to melt that down, and I'm going to do this. He pulls out a pile of blue and green gems, and it's like, okay, well, this is going to get ground up to cover the whole thing. Oh, I've got these shards of obsidian from the shrine that Talmud destroyed, and I'm going to do this with it. And he starts going over all of these details. Dwarven sigils that's going to spell out the name Gerithan are going to be on one of the sides. The other side I've got, in gold, plan to have this line of dwarven imagery, wielding, different sorts of weapons and what have you. A blessing from, Moradin, the overall god of dwarves and god of forging, is going to have, the holy symbol emblazoned upon the top. Upon the one striking side, I want to insert these shards of obsidian that, is a symbol of the destruction of what you yourself had done to Ashardalon, and possibly fortuitous in the things to come. And there was one more thing that I had going on. Here we go. So then the other side. No, that's all four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So that's what I've got. As a thought. I don't know. Whether Talmud would have any thought patterns on any of those changes that he would want to make. But I mean, this is ultimately your clan's weapon, and if this is too much of a change away from, a very simple maul, that it would not be recognizable anymore, I can definitely tone things down. But that's what Thorgarn has been thinking about for quite some time.
No, honestly, it sounds amazing. I'm all on board.
Thorgarn, as you were sort of laying out, I just imagine sort of this piece of probably dirty oilcloth or something that
pouches that he has been collecting, and everything has been separated. So there's one pouch that's got the gems, one pouch that's got the the goblet. He's got a sack full of silver coins that he's going to smelt down to do Gerithan. He's got the one cloth full of the shards of obsidian.
Well, as you've been sort of laying all these out and describing this, you would have noticed that Yesha, who had been eating cookies and sipping hot chocolate, and she'd had one of the big cozy, looks like it was probably something that Nimsy Huddle crocheted herself, a big Afghan kind of pulled up over her shoulders. And for a while, she also had the fur of some animal was kind of draped across her shoulders. But as she warmed up, she just has this colorful Afghan draped over her shoulders. And she's sitting opposite you, and she's pulled out this journal. And she's turned to a fresh page, and she's, as you've been talking, she's just been sketching and jotting things down. And at a certain point, she comes around over by you, and you see this black and white illustration of this. It's this ink on the parchment of this journal. Just really detailed sketches of all of the different components, and she's drawn a sketch of Gerithan, and by your description, she's kind of drawn arrows pointing to different parts of the hammer. Of the maul, and kind of capturing what you've talked about. But then you see she's added a little extra, and what she's added is she's shown some detail work in the shaft of the Gerithan that looks like scrimshaw, and she says, I've been looking really close at what they've been doing with this scrimshaw, and it's basically like drawing on things rather than the flat surface of paper, and I think I might be able to do that. And for the first time in a long time, you're seeing a Yesha that's the colors come back into her cheeks, and she just has a vibrance that you haven't seen in a very long time, or ever really since you met her. And she's very eagerly just, I imagine, just kind of chatting with you, Thorgarn, to get an idea of what these drawings look like. Just picture any of the various components or items that Olga Jabras has drawn in the many Wizards of the Coast books. She's one of my favorite illustrators, and she does those kind of, like, I don't know what you call them, like still lives or the various pieces of filler art. They're just fantastic. So that's what I picture. What's that?
So
I just said Olga's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Incredible. She still owes me. I've been talking to her for a couple of years now, and one day she said she's going to draw an NPC, bearded NPC based on me.
Nice.
One of these days. I keep checking every new release. Not yet.
Thorgarn is totally down for her doing this. He still has no idea what the connection is between Yesha and Talmud. But but so he kind of looks to Talmud to be like, "Are you okay with this? Do you want to kind of okay a design?"
Talmud has been watching Yesha as she said this and like handed over the drawings, and he's kind of like hovering over these drawings, trying to take in as much detail as he can. And he looks at her, and the way that he looks at her again is very reminiscent of the way like a father would look at their child. He said, "This is really well done. You're amazing at this, truly."
She kind of looks away, just kind of shrugs. It's just always been able to do it, I guess. When I started out doing research, I just drew what I saw.
Well, you've captured the vision in better detail than I could describe. It's amazing. I'm not a woodworker, so I don't really have the carving skill. And if Talmud would like this this edition, I'm definitely all for it. Looks amazing.
Ravos was telling me about that place, the Happy Scrimshander, and I guess they sell Scrimshander tools there. So tomorrow I would like to go and see what they have, and maybe I could pick up a set.
The townsfolk here were incredibly nice, so I would like to head over there myself and buy an item or two just to put some extra money back into town for their hospitality. I'll gladly go with you if you like.
That would be something for tomorrow, though. I'm really tired. And you can see her looking around, and there's, in this various parts of this attic space, there's a large double bed. Almost, it looks like it would be like almost like a queen-sized bed tucked in the one corner. There's about 3 or 4 single-sized beds. There's a couple of cots. There's some pallets over in another corner, just sleeping pallets. She kind of looks around the room, and you see her looking over at the beds, and then she just grabs this blanket around her, and she walks over towards one of the pallets in the corner, and just lays down on this sleeping pallet. And kind of shifts around to make herself comfortable. What about Drown and Cantriel? What are you doing in the waning moments of the night?
So Drown is going to approach Cantriel as they're getting ready to bed down and say, "Did you wish to send a message to one of the crew?"
Something tells me that you're able to do a little bit more of a wider range than I.
Yes, I can send someone into another's dreams.
What now?
My magic can send you into the mind of another while they sleep.
Well, that could be absolutely terrifying or hysterical.
It could be. You could scour their mind with horrific nightmares if you wished. Or you could simply speak to them.
I think I'll go with speak with them, not terrify them.
Seems wise for allies.
Yes. I mean, quite frankly, the one who makes the most sense is Victor, since he was the one left to care for the ship.
So he'll kind of stop and say, Victor should work. This magic does not work on your people because you don't sleep.
No. All right,
Victor should be fine.
Let's try for Victor then.
Do you wish to speak to him, or would you like me to send myself?
She's like mentally picturing Drown as sort of the ambassador.
Where are you?
That's exactly it.
Just looming in his dreams.
I just like Tamiko's response in chat. And hang on, can we talk for a sec about Drown having freaking Freddy Krueger powers?
Where'd that come from?
Warlocks, what are you gonna do?
Well, tell you what, if it's one of those matters where if I can go and say hello, catch him up, might have a better result.
Very well. If you are willing to do this.
What do I have to do?
Simply allow the magic to take your mind. You will fall into a trance, much like you normally do when you rest.
All right. That works.
Whenever you are ready, it will take me a moment to prepare.
Oh, right. Then just give me a couple minutes to, sort of decompress and get into the zen and everything like that.
He just kind of nods and settles down.
She'll get herself sort of sitting sort of cross-legged and hands in lap and just sort of tips her head back and shuts her eyes, and you hear her take a few very slow, deep breaths, and then everything just sort of seems to center itself and even out, and you can tell she's just sort of falling into her state.
So while that is happening, Drown will pull out, he'll kind of reach into his belt pouches. He'll pull out a handful of very fine white sand that he collected from some beach or maybe from the bottom of the ocean at some point, and a small little, like a shark skin, not a pouch, it's more like a little packet. And he holds the sand in the palm of his hand, and he begins to speak in primordial, in Aquan, the language of elemental water. And he pops the shark skin pouch, and it spatters this thick, kind of fishy, smelly black oil, probably squid ink, into the sand, and begins to sort of mix the sand and the ink together as he chants. And as he does, the smell of the ink and just the sound of his deep droning voice kind of reverberates and echoes around in Cantriel's head and starts to sort of lull her. And it's not her normal reverie elven trance. It's something darker, quieter, cold, lightless, and there's this sort of pressure pushing in around you from all sides. Not painful, but enough to be uncomfortable. And eventually you start to see a shimmering light as if through deep, deep water up in front of you. And I'll let Jake decide what to do with that as Drown sends Cantriel into Victor's dreams.
Oh dear God, that sounds
whatever the beholderkin falls asleep.
Going into their head. Oh dear God.
Yes, I just want to point out that I am so happy that this is the best case of not metagaming, because if you know, you know. If you don't, well...
I will say, I don't know if that applies to the beholderkin, because he's not a normal beholder. I have no idea if this is going to be as bad as I think it might be.
I don't know, a beholder Cantriel hybrid monster would be pretty interesting.
She already spews fire. Let's just give her a couple eye beams.
So...
Right, she has a breath weapon now.
Her eyes literally shoot daggers.
I will say this.
Yes! Could we?
I will say this. This is the dream spell, yes? So you, as the messenger, Cantriel, can shape this dream however you want.
Okay.
You can converse with Victor for as long as he remains asleep through the duration of the spell, which does last for 8 hours. You can shape the environment, creating it's a lucid dream. You can do whatever you want in here. You can choose to end this at any time. However, if you do choose to do this in a monstrous effect, dragon breath and dagger eyes and all this kind of stuff, it would limit your ability to communicate.
Okay. I think she'd kind of approach it more as like sort of setting it up that it was his thinking they were on the ship in the captain's quarters, and she was sort of like standing at the, table where the maps and everything are, and just starts talking to him more as like, he would almost translate it as like, oh, this is just another one of my dreams of like, life on the ship. But then she would start sort of explaining more of everything. It would be more like pulling out a map, and it would be Icewind Dale. And
so the scene you're setting is on board the ship.
Yeah.
So before you go into how you're going to communicate with Victor, you manifest this version of the cabin of the ship, and you form it to the best of your memory, and it's a dream, so it's irrelevant how accurate it is or not. It does have that dreamlike quality, I imagine, where it's probably much bigger than it is in actual reality. And as this dream just sort of forms around you, sort of out of the shadow, you see the backside of Victor, this sort of green floating orb. It's about 3-4 feet in diameter. And then you see the 4 eye stalks that just sort of curl around. And without the four orbs of these eye stalks are staring at you, and without any of the eyes leaving you, the head pivots, the floating orb body pivots, and you see Victor's one big eye in the middle and this big toothy smile as he looks at you and he says, "Cantriel!"
Hello, Victor.
To what do I owe this pleasure?
Well, I wanted to check in with you and see if by any chance you might have an idea as to where you actually are and what has happened.
Looks like the ship to me. Smooth sailing on the seas today.
Well, yes, today and here. But what if I were to tell you that this is only temporary?
I'd say that makes sense.
But
after the dream I had. Let me tell you.
Tell me about that dream. Yes, I'd love to hear about your dream. I'm big about dreams.
Oh, it was so many crazy dreams while you were on that island with all the colorful trees. Everything, every night, vibrant colors while we waited for you to come back. And then the night was rent by a terrible roar of a dragon. A great white beast that swooped down like a cloud. I thought it was a cloud at first that formed into a dragon. And it came down and it grabbed the ship. Next thing I knew, we were flying over the sea. And we kept flying and flying until it got colder and colder. And I did everything I could, as a good first mate would, to keep everybody down below. I ushered everybody into the hold. And the further we flew, the colder it got, and the darker it got. And then, in the midst of whether it was day or night, I don't know, there was a great cracking sound, and half the ship fell away. I don't know for sure who all it was, but at least 3 or 4 fell into the darkness when the ship was ripped in twain. But we could hear the constant, mighty flapping of that dragon's wings as we continued flying, and the snow whirled around us. And then I woke up, and everywhere I looked was darkness, except for this great glowing, some sort of a cage. It hurts whenever I try to touch it.
Is it just you in the cage in this dream of yours?
It's just me. I assume the dragon ate all of them. I don't know. I haven't seen him.
You see the dragon in your dream? After?
I've heard it. Every once in a while I hear the dragon. I think it's talking to somebody. I think there might be another dragon, perhaps.
Do you see anything else outside of the cage besides darkness?
I've seen nothing but darkness and this cage. But that doesn't matter. It's just a dream.
Yes, it's just a dream.
Unless I'm still dreaming that dream, and I've gone to sleep, and now I'm dreaming this dream.
Dreams within dreams.
Ah, that's crazy.
Some sort of inception situation, I suppose. But, I mean, if you're enjoying this dream within a dream, you certainly don't have to wake up from this particular dream yet. No one says you have to wake up from one dream to hop into the other.
I do sleep a lot. Well, I'm stuck in the dark in this, whatever this prison is, at least in the dream. I keep going back to that dream. It never changes. So I sleep. I wonder if I went to sleep now, would that be a dream within a dream within a dream?
It might, but I think it might be more fun if you tell me about the things you saw while you were waiting for us at the island and things like that. Maybe keep me a little bit of company for the next 7.5 or so hours.
Didn't I just tell you what I saw?
Yes, but I want more details. Just, in general, niceties.
Oh, okay. Well, you left. You went to the island, and we stood there and we watched. And the boat was swaying this way. And then it swayed this way. But then another wave came and we went this way.
And Cantriel will listen to him and smile and just nod her head. She's basically trying to give him a little bit of respite at this point, hearing what he's dealing with in reality. She's kind of thinking if she can give him this dream time, she's going to stick around as long as she can and kind of give him just this breather.
So for the most part, Victor recounts the story a couple of times. It doesn't change. You get the gist of the story is that this white dragon snatched them out from the sea while you were on the Feywild or at the Spire, and the dragon brought the ship to the north, and somewhere in the north is where the ship broke apart, confirming your arrival. But the dragon continued carrying the other half. During the split, a number of people fell out into the darkness. Victor doesn't know how many. And Victor has not seen anybody. He has heard the dragon, and he hears it occasionally speaking to somebody. You don't really glean any new information.
Does he mention a name at any point of what the dragon is saying to the person?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't seem to focus on that part too much because he seems pretty convinced that it's just a dream.
It's a dream. Okay.
He seems to. He probably comes back about the third time that he's gone back to the Feywild, telling the story from the beginning. He seems to convinced that they're still on the sea, offshore of the Feywild, waiting for you to return. He's he's convinced that the Feywild is what is causing all of these bizarre dreams. But around this time, he kind of floats over and is sort of peering over your shoulders at this map table where you've unfurled some maps. Are you planning the next phase of our voyage?
Something like that, yes. Sort of a, almost like a search.
Where are we going?
Oh, here and there. Discover new places. See who we can meet. And if for some reason this dream comes to an abrupt end and you find yourself back in that other dream, just consider it a dream until you see me again and telling you it's not a dream.
Right. Dreams within dreams.
Yes. When I tell you the other dream is not a dream, it's no longer a dream.
During... How long do you carry on with this? Do you tell him any new information, or are you just giving him this, basically this comfort and company during
it's
this
more
period?
this comfort, realizing what he's been through and what the crew has been through, and knowing that, you know, if he wakes up with all this knowledge, he's not going to be able to do anything about it if he's convinced it's a dream and it's something that's not going to... How am I... Basically, she's letting him think that the reality is a dream just so he's not as overwhelmed by the situation he's in.
At some point, because of the duration of this, at some point, Victor occasionally will just mutter something, and he'll say, "Oh, I need to go check on the galley and make sure that everybody's being fed properly," and he'll disappear, and he'll come right back, and he'll say something about, my turn on the crow's nest. And you'll remember, it's been a while since you've seen Victor, but you might remember that Victor seemed to have almost a, I don't want to say necessarily like, he had kind of multiple, I don't want to say multiple personalities. I'm saying that, and I don't want to say it. It's not multiple personalities, but his mood shifted.
Yeah. He's mercurial.
Yeah.
Different modes he would get into.
Yeah.
And it's during one of these times he says, right, I need to go and make sure everybody's inspected for your arrival when you return. I'll be back momentarily. As he leaves... in the same instant that he leaves, you see Victor emerge from the shadows where you saw him the first time. In the room with you. And as he approaches you, his demeanor is a little different. Cantriel.
Yes, Victor.
It took me a while to convince him to go away for longer. I know this isn't just a dream. I don't know how I know this. I don't know for sure what is happening. Where are you? Where are the others? Where did you go?
I don't know where the other crew members are. The other Dawnbringers are with me in a village called Lonelywood, in an area of Icewind Dale, which is where the ship was crashed by the dragon.
Icewind Dale. Then it's true. Victor doesn't remember, but I do. Many years ago, I traveled on the Evangeline with Sylvain Aetherlock and the Vieros to Icewind Dale. When they came back laden with treasures, Sylvain locked those treasures in the hold of the ship. That was what I was sworn to protect, the ship and those treasures. It was the hoard of a great white worm by the name of Arviatris.
Yes.
When Drown broke the wards on the hold, Arviatris knew exactly where her treasure was. I am afraid she came to collect it and has added what remains of the Evangeline and the crew and myself to the hoard. If any of you still have any of that treasure, she will come looking for you. Cantriel.
Yes.
Arviatris is mad. And I don't mean in the angry sort of way, because she is that. She is mad. Driven to madness in the loneliness and solitude. She pines for somebody who is lost. But yet she speaks to him constantly. She calls him Meltheron, but I have not seen him.
This is good to know.
You must be careful, you and all the Dawnbringers.
Yes, of course.
Arviatris is an ancient dragon. She has lived for a very long time. Be careful.
You as well.
I don't know if I'll ever be able to speak to you like this again, but and he kind of seems to be twitching a little bit. Victor has finished his inspection and returns. If you are in Icewind Dale, you are closer than you think. But there is something else here. Beware the goddess. And he seems to just fade back into almost like a smoke as Victor comes bursting through the door, and he goes, this biggest grin on his face, and he says, Cantriel, you're not going to believe what I found during inspection. Apparently, I've had babies. And four
Beg your pardon?
Four of these, oh crap, I totally forgot what they're called. The little softball-sized beholders. What are they?
Goths.
That doesn't sound right. Goths?
Yeah, I think so, isn't it? G-A-U-T-H.
That doesn't sound right.
They're just like a floating eye with like heavy eyeliner on it.
I'm telling Dan Dillon, that doesn't sound right.
Hey, I might have grabbed the wrong name. This is why we look everything up.
They're I'm trying to think of what they're called. Ugh.
Doesn't it begin with an I?
Gazer.
Gazers. Thank you.
Gazers. Those are
There
the
we
ones.
go.
Yes.
Goth
That's what they are.
gazers.
No, it's like
I have minis of those. I might be painting goth gazers.
Yeah, it's a it is a gazer. Gazers, yes. They're basically these like little tiny beholderkin with four little tiny eye stalks. Yeah. And he just kind of gestures with his eye stalks, and these four little gazers just start floating around him. And as he says that, I've got children. That's where we're going to end tonight's session. And that's why I'm happy you gave a dream to a beholderkin. Because I don't care if beholderkin are affected or not. In my game, they are.
They are now.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, Jake. That was an amazing session. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
I had so much fun with this. This is one of those sessions that I've known since you guys came to Icewind Dale, and when I spent a lot of time in the planning determining where you guys were going to end up and what was the best way to do that, since we're playing in Icewind Dale, but we're not following the campaign explicitly. And I had every intention from the start of giving you the warm welcome you have not felt in a town since Oakhurst. And for Drown, yeah, Drown never. And I wanted it to be the antithesis to Saltmarsh.
Towns are full of bitterness and idiots.
I mean, how could you not have fun with a town speaker that's a halfling woman named Nimsy Huddle that makes halfling cookies?
She's so wholesome. She's the best.
And I tell you, I was in this attic during this session. It reminded me actually of my wife's grandmother's home, where there was just mismatched beds, and around the holidays, all of the family was over there. So there's people sleeping in every bedroom, on the floor on bedrolls, and who gets the big room at the end, who has the most kids, all of those kind of things. So I was channeling some of that, and yeah, this was a session I really enjoyed. You guys are all just incredible. To be able to paint a scene and let you guys play in it, and to give you, for a change, that true respite from the dangers that you faced for so long, and yeah, just everything about it. The only thing I didn't like was that M wasn't here to be a part of it as Fig, but we're here. We're in the Lonelywood. You've been told that you have a place to stay. You have access to this house. You have stores and things. You've got some plans you want to do. You know that Nimsy wants to talk to you in the morning. Yeah. We'll return next week for more of the Rime of the Frostmaiden. And also, if somebody didn't clip it, somebody should go back near the beginning and clip that wonderful song from V from Cantriel. It's always a pleasure when V turns full bard and regales the tales of the Dawnbringers. So thank you to everybody that joined us tonight in chat. I know we had a few new folks hanging out with us. I just want to say again a huge thank you to Devin Rue, who literally just saw the picture that I tweeted with the map and said, "Hey, let me send you my Icewind Dale map." And I'm gonna, since we didn't really use it that much, I'm just gonna, as we're closing out, we're gonna go back and show that off again. We'll be using this map during. Let me see here. It's this one. This is part of it, the Lonelywood section, but we will be using this map for the duration of the Icewind Dale campaign for the bigger map. So definitely check out Devin Rue at Devin Rue on Twitter, and she's got a storefront where she does lots of cool cartography stuff. I actually have. It was given to me as a gift by my friend over at Castle Mac. Is one of her map coins. They're wonderful weighted coins for putting on physical maps and battle mats to keep on the table. So definitely check that out. Thank you, Devin, so much for sharing that with us, and thank you, V, for putting the link to Devin's Twitter. Thank you to all of the wonderful people who followed, subbed. Looks like we had a raid in there. What You Looking At, I always like to give a shout out to What You Looking At, who just subscribed for 36 months. What You Looking At is our first and longest subscriber. Yeah, as I said, we'll be returning next Thursday with more Dawnbringers. Tomorrow night, right here on the channel, Dwight, the Big Bearded Nerd, will be producing the next episode of Friday Night Takeover, where our own M is going to be running Grant Howitt's Goblin Punks with a wonderful group of folks. Please also check out the Big Bearded Nerd, Big Bearded Nerd 21. I think it's exclamation point Dwight, if I'm not mistaken. We'll bring up his stuff. Dwight's going to be doing, I think, all day on Saturday, or for several hours anyway. He's continuing his Feeding America fundraiser. He's going to be doing some hangouts with different folks, painting miniatures. There's a chance I might pop in and paint some minis with him as well. For some reason, I've got tons of WizKids unpainted miniatures all around me that I will happily paint on stream.
And not my fault. Totally my fault.
And we'll have more continuing adventures in, as we always do with our D&D adventures and other things. Also, I want to mention this because I believe it's next Wednesday, right, Jeremy? Next Wednesday is the finale, over 2 years in the making, of our long-running Momentum Whispers and Fragments campaign that is Jeremy's Homebrew World. Just absolutely incredible. We've been playing this, some of the most intense deep roleplay I've ever played, with these fine role players in this group, and it's been an honor to play, and it's going to be bittersweet to play in the finale. And we are currently working out the scheduling to also do next month to do a sort of wrap party stream for a couple hours where we'll talk about the campaign. All of that, of course, will take place on Erasmus Expeditions on YouTube. So if you're not already subscribed, why aren't you? Go over there, subscribe. It's awesome contact. And I haven't forgotten, Ted. Saving the best for last, because starting at 8 tomorrow over on Nerdarchy Live, the Chaos Crew rides again. We've got a brand new campaign. We're sponsored by Easy Roller Dice. This time, it's all coming out of Ted's head. And we are all playing as... Do I tell them now, or do we make them...
Yeah, go for it.
We're all playing as wizards, every one of us. But we chose, and this plays into the name that we chose for the campaign. The name of the campaign is Untraditionally Arcane. And that's because we are not playing the traditional arcane schools that you find in the player's handbook. I personally am playing a beardomancer. And this is actually the first that Ted and V are hearing this. My character is a dwarf, and his name is Ordo Wonderbeard.
Nice.
I am so looking forward to this. The Beardomancer is such an incredible class from Nerdarchy. Lots of great spells and neat things to do with it. And I'm sure Ted will twist it to my disadvantage as well. Plus, we're all. I mean, we've got some Wildmount wizards in there and some other things going on with the same crew that's been playing for the last 4 years. We've been playing these games.
About three years that this group has probably been together.
So we're all together again for this. That's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. on Nerdarchy Live on YouTube. I'll be producing, Ted will be running the game, and we're all going to be silly and having fun with it. So yeah, check that out. Tune in for that tomorrow as well. I think I promoted something for everybody except for Dan, so I will say this. Check out the new what is it, Gothic UA that's available.
Yeah.
Lots of cool new options in there as they continue to roll out awesome stuff. And as Dan always likes to remind people, if you're using any of this stuff, make sure you're filling out the surveys, because they use the surveys. They really do use the surveys, and it helps to shape.
The survey data shapes what ends up in the book. Like how you guys feel about it, how you use it, how it works for you or doesn't work for you, that changes the designs that become D&D. So please use it. Tell us what you think, even if you just read it and don't get to play it. When the survey comes out, fill it out. Please, please, please. You will shape the game.
Yeah, so... Whoa. I just made a mistake. I opened up another instance of Twitch, and it wasn't muted. So what you heard me say was "and so," and then on Twitch say "and so," but then that picked up and started a loop. I had to mute it real quick. I was looking to see if we knew anybody, if any of our friends were currently streaming. You know what? We're gonna send a raid over to Nerd Immersion, who is looks like they're playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now. So as we get out of here in just a moment, I'm gonna send a raid over to Nerd Immersion. But I have already promoted all of you guys, but of course I want to say, as always, before we head out of here, a tremendous thank you to Dan, V, Ted, and Jeremy, without whom it would just be me talking to myself for 3 hours. With that, we are going to go ahead and end the stream the same way we end every stream. Stick around after the stream goes off so you can participate in that raid. Spam your MTD emotes and whatever emotes you got. Tell them MTD sent you. But we're going to end the stream the same way you end every stream, and you can say it with me if you want.
Marshmallows.